Well, hello everyone. Thank you for coming to see a presentation about our little adventure in the middle of nowhere to the most remote uninhabited place on Earth. We have about 30 minutes. We can talk about this for quite a while, but we'll try to be short so we can take some questions. First of all, I want to thank a few people here that helped us. Our main pilot, November to Alpha Juliet, Steve, and our VK pilot, Lee, wherever you are, thank you. And a part of the team here, we have Pete and Zero Fox Whiskey. Our doctor, one of our doctors, Dr. Mike, and our CW machine, Axel. So, and I, KOA SCA. All right, so let's start. The DXpedition took place in this year, in January, February. If you need a lot of additional details or pictures or even little videos, you can go to our website, 3yankee0juliet.com. So, first of all, for those of you that don't know where Bouvet is, it's in the middle of nowhere. No sane person would know where Bouvet is because if you look on the map, you're not going to find it. So I made a little bit of schematics here so you guys can see that it's about 8,000 miles from New York and about 8,000 miles from Europe and close to 10,000 miles to Asia. The island is located 1,600 miles south of South Africa and about 1,000 miles north of Antarctica. It is not in on a shipping lane. It's far away from the shipping lanes, which means that there's no boat that just passes Bouvet in its way to somewhere else. If you want to go to Bouvet, you have to get a boat that takes you there, waits for you, and takes you back home. And that's exactly what we had to do, and that's why our budget was $750,000. This island, this little island is, although it's located in the southern hemisphere, it's a Norwegian territory. The Norwegians, I guess, were traveling quite a bit looking to find whales, but the island was discovered by a French sailor in the 1700s. Most likely, Mr. Bouvet got there and figured out there's not worth getting on the island because it's 93% covered by ice and snow, and it's nothing more than a peak of about 3,000 feet. To give you an idea, the island is about half the size of Manhattan. But you can't really walk from one end to another because under that ice and snow, there could be a lot of crevasses, which are dangerous, obviously. The most important, from our point of view, the most important thing about the island is the fact that it's battered by, in an average, 300 storms a year. If you think about it, in a year there are 365 days, which means that if you go to Bouvet, no matter how you take it, you can encounter at least one storm. We are lucky, we found 3 of them. So, Bouvet is one of the entities that, one of the 4 Norwegian entities that are of interest to him operators because together with Peter I, Jan Mayen, and Svalbard, they're separate entities. There's nobody on the island. There are no humans, but there are quite a few penguins, about 5,000 of them, and a lot of fur seals, about 65,000 of them. I'm not sure how they counted them, but I guess artificial intelligence and satellite imagery did the trick. There have been 9 activations so far on Bouvet. That's not a lot, and most of the old activations were done by the technicians that were working on the weather station located on the island. And one of the interesting things is that our DXpedition, 3yankee0juliet, is the only one that was privately funded, which means no governmental funds were involved as opposed to the previous DXpeditions. Actually, the only DXpedition except ours that visited Bouvet was in 1989, who made about 40,000 QSOs. And most of the other activations are very small scale. If you take a look at these pictures here, the one on the left is a picture taken when the Norwegians landed on the island and claimed it for the Norwegian crown. And the picture to the right is interesting because this is the first Norwegian DXpedition that landed on the island in 1977, and they actually landed in the exact same spot where our DXpedition landed this year. This is a little map of Bouvet. You see the weather station there to the left and the landing site for our DXpedition at the bottom right. If you look closely, you'll see that there's nothing in green there, which means there's practically no land, but that's not the case. The weather station, which is theoretically a better landing area, was out of bounds for our DXpedition or any other DXpedition because it's part of a national park. There are a lot of animal life there, a lot of seals, which are very aggressive, and so together with the Norwegian Polar Institute, it was decided that the best approach is to land on Cape Fear, and so we did. One interesting thing that you might want to know is the fact that in the southern hemisphere, the wind always blows from west to east, which means us landing on Cape Fear had a big advantage. We had the island in against the wind as a protection. So a second reason for us to land on Cape Fear. The team was made up of 12 operators and a consultant. The team leaders were Norwegians. They started working on this for about 3 years. A lot of work to put together such a DXpedition. In an average, a DXpedition takes maybe 6 to 9 months to put together. The ones that go to more difficult places, a bit more than a year to prepare, but ours took almost 3 years. It's not easy to get to the second most rarest entity. The team members all consistent of hams from different continents. We had 2 doctors, Dr. Bill and Dr. Mike, who is here, and also a dentist, Mr. Otis. The doctors didn't have to do much. I guess the safety procedures imposed on the team paid off because we actually had no incidents. But our dentist, Mr. Otis, had to do some dental work. So it's good that he had his toolkit with him. Like I said, preparations took a long time. We had to fly to Norway quite a few times to test everything, every antenna, every tent, every cable, every connector, radio, and so forth. These are some of the pictures that were taken last year at Lima November 8 Whiskey, a superstation in a counter station in Norway, about 2 hours south of Oslo. So we stayed there for about a week and tested everything, including the toilet. Now, one of the restrictions that were given to us was whatever you bring on the island, you have to take off the island, which meant that human, let's say, human waste needed to be taken out of the island as well, and that's not easy feat for 12 operators for about 2 weeks on the island. Our journey started in London, and the idea was for us to fly from London to the Falklands, and so we did. We used a military supply plane that was needed because unlike the regular commercial flights, the military flights are not bothered by the weather that much. And the idea was that if we attempted to fly into the Falklands, where the boat was waiting for us on our own from different parts of the world, we had the risk of some operators not making it or some of the equipment not making it. And so we decided for all of us to meet in London and take the 17-hour flight to the Falklands with a stopover in D4, Cape Verde. From there, the plan was to go to take a boat from the Falklands to Bouvet, position number 4 there, and from there sail to Cape Town, South Africa, and go home from South Africa. And so we all met in London. We had a nice dinner with the local hams. We had a bit of fun, and we did bring quite a bit of bags and equipment with us, although most of the equipment was packed into a container that left Norway a few months before and was already in the Falklands by the time we got there. So on January 11, we got into this military flight, and we arrived at Mount Pleasant Terminal on January the 12th. The military flight had quite a few restrictions, and there was a lot of paperwork to bring electronic equipment. For obvious reasons, you can't just board a military flight whenever you feel like and without being checked. But we did all the paperwork prior, so we didn't really have any issues. Once we got in the Falklands, the boat was waiting for us. We used a sailboat. That sounds a bit unusual considering where we're going, but looking back, we have concluded that this was one of the best decisions we made. The sailboat, using the wind to our advantage, brought us a lot faster than using the engine, and in addition, the ride is smoother and it's faster. Not only that, it saves a lot of money because fuel costs money, but the wind doesn't. The boat was called Marama. It's a French boat, a French crew, and is made of aluminum. And this boat had traveled in the cold areas of the earth quite a bit, so the crew had quite a bit of experience on how to handle sailing with people that don't know anything about sailing in those areas of the world. So the boat took about the boat trip took about 14 days to get to Bouvet, and about 10 days to go from Bouvet to South Africa. So was depending on who you ask, it could be a short or a long trip, but we've been at sea for almost 2 months, so not an easy trip. Once we got to the Falklands, the container was waiting for us. We opened it up and loaded everything into the sailboat. One disadvantage of the sailboat is that it's not the type of boat that has a lot of space to put the 7 tons of equipment that we had with us. So loading the boat was more of a puzzle game, you know, how you fit it so that you can fit everything there, but at the same time to avoid, to make sure the boat is still stable. So we put a lot of work into it, 2 days of labor, and we finally got it done. For the heavy stuff, like the generators, we used a forklift, and most of the equipment, the sensitive equipment especially, was packed in those waterproof barrels, the blue ones in the picture there. Those are excellent. They're used in the fishing industry. They're very light, they're waterproof, and they're easy to carry around. One of our team members made a handle system, so that was quite an easy way to, or a smart way to pack our equipment for our trip. A sailboat moves quite a bit, and in addition for causing excitement to the passengers, you have to make sure that you tie up each and every piece of equipment so that you don't lose it on the at the sea. So on January 14, we were ready to depart the Falklands. The boat needed to be refueled, and so everybody got off the boat and visited the local town. It's quite a view. We were told to visit a local museum, and that was because it has a section fully dedicated to ham radio. That was something nice to see. And then in the evening, we had a nice dinner with the local hams, and that was fun. It was the last decent dinner we had for the next 2 months. So on January 17 in the afternoon, we departed for Bouvet. Everybody was excited, and we're getting ready to go. Before going to this trip, we had to follow quite a few safety procedures, and we were explained how to put these gumbo suits, the survival suits. It's not an easy thing. takes about half an hour when you first put it, then you have to get it down to about 10 minutes. The idea is that if something happens, you get into these suits and you're supposed to be floating and be protected from the low temperatures in the part of the world. We also were given these yellow safety harnesses, which were mandatory to be worn if you got out onto the deck. These safety harnesses came with a lanyard, and you were connected to the boat at all times. Actually, it was pretty useful because the boat was moving quite a bit. And so we also had a lot of communication equipment for safety reasons, all kind of satellite phones, but we also had these nifty satellite radios provided by ICOM. They were, for the first time, used in a DXpedition, and courtesy of DX Engineering, we were able to use them to talk unlimited through the satellite from the boat and also from Bouvet. They allowed us to keep in touch with the pilots so that they can post information related to what we were doing on the island. Life on the boat was pretty simple. You basically ate and slept. We had our cook, Nina. She was French. She was really good at cooking. You know, the French have cooking into their DNA. It was fun. But after a while, we started skipping certain meals, and that's mostly because of the motion of the boat, and we got to use plastic bags a lot more often than showing up for the meals. The boat was filled up to the brim. You can see here all those barrels in our meeting area on the boat. We had 5 bathrooms, but 3 of them were filled up with the equipment. You can see there the bathroom in my bunk. And this is how a bunk looked like. That picture at the bottom right, that's basically 2 beds, one on top and one on the bottom, and then we had equipment on the bed, under the bed, near the bed, everywhere. So, to make things a bit more exciting, the captain set up a watch system, about an hour and a half, twice a day, teams of 2. We'll go on the deck and do 2 things. One of the team members will watch for icebergs, and the other one would ride the boat. Here at the picture on the left, you see the captain showing us how to drive the boat. It was very exciting, especially during the day when it was not that cold. It's not that complicated. If you're told to go 100 degrees, you just watch the compass and move the wheel. No, not too complicated. During the night, it was, for those that were passionate about seeing stars and a clear sky, it was quite a view. Other than that, we spent the time in the main saloon and talking about mostly ham radio. But after a while, you see the stories starting to be repeating itself, and so we moved on to more interesting things. We got approval from the boat captain to install an inverter from one of the masts, and we started operating. This was very exciting. We made more than 5,000 QSOs as Maritime Mobile, and one of the days, one of the crew members sat down with one of our team members that spoke French, and he was trying to understand what we were trying to do there. He understood the idea where you exchange names and greetings and so forth, but this 5-9 thing didn't make any sense. So in the end, he kind of understood or pretended to do so, but from then on, the joke was when he needed to get something done, he would say 5-9, 5-9. So life was pretty exciting, and when you see the first iceberg, you say, wow, and then after the second one, things get, you know, kind of mundane. And on January 30th, during the night, we arrived at Bouvet. The captain let us know, Bouvet. We got on the deck, we looked around, we couldn't see nothing. It was cold, it was windy, it was absolutely nasty. So we went back into the bunks, and the next morning we started getting ready to get on the island. And while we were doing so, for about half an hour, got a nice glimpse of Bouvet for the first time. And this is one of those nice pictures that we took that shows the island very nicely. One of the things that happens on that parts of the world is that the old adage that says, if you don't like the weather, just wait a little bit. That's exactly what would happen. It would be nice for half an hour, and then, you know, the wind will start and another storm, or we'll get foggy and so forth. So although you see here a lot of nice pictures of Bouvet, these were the few moments when we were actually able to take those pictures. So this was the plan. You get on you land on that beach on the right. Once you land there, you move the equipment and you go up this cliff that you see on the left, and you walk up, you set up the camp, and then you get ready for the pile-ups. Plan was very simple. So we sent a scouting mission with 4 people and 1 Zodiac to identify the best portion of the beach where the landing would be possible or easier, and to find the best way to get up that cliff. In the previous years, a few team members went to Norway to take mountain climbing courses and also ice climbing courses in case we had to scale the cliff and also the ice shelf. But Bouvet had a nice surprise for us. The weather actually carved that cliff quite nicely, and all we have to do is put that 10-foot ladder onto the cliff, walk on it, and then walk another maybe a couple of 100 feet to get up the cliff and set up the camp. So we did have some nice surprises. But unfortunately, the weather on Bouvet changes very quickly. So after a few hours onto the island, the weather changed significantly, and the captain decided that it's not safe for the boat to be too close to the shore. So the 4 people remained on the island, and the boat moved around to hide behind the island because of the weather. And those 4 people stayed on the island for the second day. The weather was still not good. On the 3rd day, we were able to get a Zodiac there and give them some supplies. Some of those supplies got lost in the ocean, a tent and some anchors, but things improved quite well on the 4th day, and so we brought those 4 people back to the boat, and we set up a meeting and decided what the next plan is. One plan was to wait for good weather, but we didn't want to wait any longer. We already been there for 5 days next to the island. And so we used one of the backup plans that we prepared in Norway, which was a closed loop rope system. What that meant is you put 2 buoys in the ocean, and you drill 2 anchors into the rock on the shore, and you form a closed loop system with 4 points. And it sounded crazy, but you know, when you have a consultant that says that he's going to go first, set everything up, test it, make sure everything works, and then step by step you get instruction what you need to do, you figured, okay, let's do it. So we divided our team into 2 groups. A group of 8 people will go on the island, and a group of 4 people will stay on the boat to help with the resupplies and prepare everything so that when the next good weather window will come, we'll swap operators, we'll bring more food, more equipment, and so forth. And that's what we did. We dressed up in these fancy survivor suits. We put our safety harness. We locked into the rope, and we started swimming towards the shore. It was quite a roller coaster ride, very exciting, to say the least, but once you get on the shore, you're ready to put a smile and take a picture. As you see there on a picture on the left, these are the equipment that we brought in. The only caveat with this type of approach was that you couldn't you bring too much of equipment at the time. So we only brought ashore about 1,400 pounds of equipment and radios, which meant that we had to cut off on all the luxuries. We had we decided to bring no desks, no chairs, the minimum of survival equipment and fuel and water and food for about 10 days. So the idea was that in 2-3 days, when the weather got better, we could readjust and go to the next step. I'm going to play a little video here to give you an idea of how our Bouvet landing took place. Basically, the main issue with landing by Zodiac is the surf. You can wait for good weather, and then you use that Zodiac to bring everything on shore. Or if you don't wait for very good weather, then you cannot load the Zodiac too much, because then you don't have the stability that is necessary to pull or to negotiate, I should say, the surf. So this approach was pretty good. We tested it in Norway, but when you test it and you see the result with the backup approach, and then when you have to do it, they're two different things. Although you get to a point though, or the close to the shore and the water is not that deep, the force of the surf still prevents the operators from standing out. So the idea is you get pushed by the waves a little bit, you swim a little bit, and the operators that are on the shore already, they just pull the rope to speed up the process of getting to the shore. Of course, the one that already got on the shore, like that guy there, they're smiling and making fun of the ones coming into the shore. It's always easier when you look behind you. So, we finally got on Bouvet when we were ready to put the antennas and get started with the pileups. But that day, we were told that in a day or two, we're going to get our first storm on the island. And so our consultant said we should focus on tying up the tent. We used quite a bit of ropes and anchors. We had to drill into the rock to make sure that tent stayed erect for the period of the storm. Of course, our consultant, Peter, definitely knew what he was talking about, because I was definitely thanking him during the storm when we realized that the tent was still up for the duration. So we had to tie up everything, because one thing that definitely happens on Bouvet is the wind never stops. So under that blue tarp there on the left are our bags. We're 9 people in that tent. Remember, we lost one tent, and we had a third tent on the boat, which was supposed to be arriving in 2 or 3 days when the weather got better after the incoming storm. It rained quite a bit, and that was not convenient, because it's not good to stay wet on the rain, and sometimes it would snow, and that was nicer, although the temperatures would be a lot lower. Life in the tent was very simple. It was top-of-the-line comfort. We basically had to sleep in these sleeping bags. If you were cold, you strip down to your underwear, you get into your bag there, into your sleeping bag, and in 30 minutes, maybe half an hour, you get nice and toasty, ready for the next task that you are needed at, or maybe, if you're lucky enough, operating. You see here Mike's smile when he finally got to warm up after a good workout outside, probably fixing a generator or something. Our top-of-the-line toilet, you see it there, it was very comfortable, especially when it was snowing. We remember we had to take off the island everything that we brought in, and that included human waste. Not an easy feat, but we had to do it. Sometimes you would look outside and say, it's too cold to go to the bathroom, I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna hold it, I'm gonna hold it. Then you see the sun coming up a little bit and say, wow, let me go and do that. By the time you get to the toilet, you're already with your pants down and the weather changed, but you can't back out of it. So, but that's what you do for a little bit of pileups. Food was excellent. We had something very fancy called MRE. It's basically a plastic envelope that you open up, you pour hot water into it, you stir for 5 minutes, and then You get some fancy food like pasta primavera, or some chicken, what was that? Chicken marsala or something. In any case, very fancy names, unless you look at how it looked like. And we installed 3 vertical antennas. The one that did most of the work for North America was DX Engineering aluminum 30-meter vertical. You see it right there in the left picture. That was very nicely built. The guys at DX Engineering adjusted that antenna so that it will survive the wind on Bouvet. And so we had no issues. We had to tie up and check the guy wires from time to time, but all the antennas stayed up. The other 2 used the German spider poles, and the 3 bands that we used in particular were the 17, 15, and 30 meters, yes. This was our Radio Shack. It consists of a very nice bucket where we put 2 radios in it. We had no chairs, so we used our muscle power. But it was nothing. The part that was really exciting was looking at the radio and seeing the S meter showing S0. This is like a dream for us ham operators in today's world where, you know, all these LED lights causes a lot of RF noise. So the S0 noise caused for us to actually listen and be able to hear extremely well. We had no issues hearing everyone, but unfortunately, on the first round, we didn't bring our generators, amplifiers, and so we worked with 100 watts, and because of the QRM and the pirates and so forth, we had a lower rate that we have wanted to. We have calculated that at least 30% more QSOs would have been made if we had no intentional QRM. You can see there how an operator looks like after a week with no showers and very little sleep. Not many things happen there. You know, when you go into the expedition, you basically work, you're exhausted, you eat and sleep. In the meantime, in between, you do some operating. But we did have a nice event there. We had this historical QSO for the first time. Entity number 2 made a QSO with an entity number 3. That rarely happens for the expedition to such rare entities to be put together in the same time. So we had this little QSO. I have a recording. I'm probably not going to play it all as our time is running out quickly. But we were really excited. It was one of the things that caused a lot of smiles on our faces. We had some hardship of setting up a sked because the moment we called the FT8 whiskey from Crozet, the police frequency will come up and say, pirates, pirates, pirates. In any case, we had a few neighbors, mostly penguins. The seals stayed mostly on the shore. The penguins are very friendly. They stayed in in their own colony there, huddled together. We thought they do so for keeping warm, but that was not the case. They actually want to take care of their chicks, which are sometimes picked up by large petrel birds, which will then drop them off the cliff and then eat them. And so, like I said, they would huddle together. They were about maybe 60, 100 feet from our camp, pretty close. It was very nice to look at them, but if there was no wind, what you see there, those are foot-high excrements, so they were pretty nasty. But the good thing is the wind never stopped on Bouvet. I have a little video here with a penguin moving around. It's very cute to look at, but it was cold and we were focusing on the pilot, so we didn't really pay much attention to them. Finally, the last day on Bouvet came in. We got a notice from the captain that the weather is going to be getting very nasty, so we had 2 options after 10 days on Bouvet. We either stay for longer and get more equipment in, or use this incredible beautiful 6 hours to get off the island safely. And so we voted for 6 of us to stay, and 6 of us wanted to go home. And so the team leaders decided we should go home. And so we did. It turned out that this incredible day was the quiet before the storm. And once we got off the island, we had to hide behind the island in the boat so that we wait the weather. We headed to our final destination at Cape Town. The trip took about 10 days. We got there, we couldn't get into the port. We said that we have to wait for another day. It was the longest day of my life. After almost 2 months on the sea, we really wanted to go and eat a big steak and some ice cream. But once we got into the port, we found the pirates. They were menacing us in a frequency, and we decided to turn them on to the authorities, and from now on, we're told there are going to be no more pirates or QRM in the frequency. Everyone enjoyed a nice big steak. You see David there ordered a steak that was probably bigger than him. He finished it all. Almost every one of us lost weight. I personally lost 30 pounds, and about half of a pound was going back with that nice hamburger that I had in Cape Town. When you're in the expedition, the work seems to never stop. So we put a lot of effort into unloading the boat, put it into some trucks that eventually took all the equipment and containers and back to Norway. There are a lot of interesting statistics. You can see them on the M0 Oscar X-Ray Oscar website. The idea is, in short, that we made close to 20,000 QSOs, and a bit over 8,000 people were happy to get a new one. And we spent quite a bit of money to get there, about $750,000, not including the equipment that was donated by our sponsors. But we were able to raise the funds that we needed. Thank you, Dayton, and everyone that helped us raise that much, the funds that we needed. And so we decided to return the surplus funds, about $50,000, to the clubs and the main sponsors, among others, Northern California Foundation. As my previous presenter said, you know, you have to really support these companies that do their best to make the expedition happen. If we have to buy this equipment that we need to get to these rare places, we will never be able to put the expedition together. As I said, I can talk about this for hours, but I think we have a limited time. I already see some aggressive faces that way, but we could take a few questions if you guys have. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for your efforts. Thank the entire team for so perfectly undertaken.
Okay.
But in hindsight, when you go to your next challenging Arctic expedition, what would you do differently?
So the question is, what would I do? What were we going to do difficult for the next challenging the expedition? There's none of them that's challenging us Bouvet, so everything else will be so easy from now on. I've been to 30 DXpeditions so far. None of them took 3 years of preparations, so I don't think there's an issue there. Any other questions?
Take one more.
Okay. So the question is why we went this way, the way we did from South America to Bouvet and Cape Town. Very simple. As I said, the wind in the southern hemisphere at that time of the year always blows from west to east. So Falklands, Bouvet, Cape Town. We got the wind to push us fast, and we save money on fuel. All right, well, thank you all for being here and for supporting us.